Welcome everybody to the Vincit Talks. I'm Sean Richards, new SVP of Strategy and Partnerships to Vincit and participating in Vincit Talks. For those of you who have attended these talks in the past with Vincit, you may notice a slight change. We've updated the talk names to Vincit Talks from the previous Vincit Dev Talks. We know that with software development being such a core to the work we all do at Vincit, we also understand how development does play a role in a larger picture. So we're now expanding the Vincit Talks to touch on topics around user experience and business strategy, in addition to continuing our focus on tech development. So you'll experience some of these topics in the future talks. We do have several topics today and special guest speakers we're really excited about. And so to not delay any further, we definitely want to jump right in. We'll do some introductions before each speaker. And so to not waste too much more time, for our first speaker, I'd like to introduce you to Nikki Kuritsky. Nikki is the current Chief Product Officer at a fantastic organization called Chief. She was formerly VP of Product at Shutterstock, VP of Digital Product at Christie's, and many more impressive roles. And just a little bit about Chief, they're an exclusive private partner or private professional network really focused on connecting and supporting women and leaders of today. So a lot of their members are rising leaders in top ranking positions, making a lot of strategic top level decisions and influencing a lot of change for the tomorrow of business and women in leadership. So today, Nikki can talk a little bit about Chief and some of their decisions around technology to support their business goals, and any additional background on Chief that you'd like to provide. Just one quick note to follow Nikki. Vincit's own Otto Kivikarki will provide insights on PubNub and chat platforms for some real-time custom-built communication for Chief.com as our client. After which we'll be able to take questions for you, the audience, and if you'd like, go ahead and post some questions in the Zoom chat, and we'll be sure to get you the answers from the team as we're moving along this webinar. So after that, yeah, Nikki, go ahead and take it away. We'd love to hear about Chief and about your role and some of your technology decisions.
Thanks so much, Sean. I appreciate it. So everyone, I'm Nikki Kuritsky, Chief Product Officer at Chief, as Sean mentioned. And as Sean said, Chief is an executive network that's specifically for female leaders. So Chief launched in February of 2019 in New York City. And at the time we launched to 200 female executives. Since that time, we've been growing at a rapid pace. We're now in the thousands in New York alone, and we're opening LA, Chicago, and more cities in the coming months as well. And so when we thought about kind of like what we wanted for our digital experience for our members, we started to think about what members were coming to us to do. As Sean mentioned, all of our members are female executives, and they range from people who are at Fortune 500 companies to startups to even first-time founders. But they all share something in common, which is that they are the lonely woman at the top. They are coming to us because they're looking to broaden their network of female power players. They want to gain access to a community that can help them crowdsource information, get relevant advice and content, and they want to meet members in smaller groups. And really feel like those members are people that they can turn to for advice and recommendations and resources when they need them. So a big theme that we kept on hearing here was this idea of crowdsourcing. That was something that was really important to our members. They wanted the ability to chat in a platform where they could talk to people and meet them, but also kind of get a sense of who is in the community. So you could imagine I'm Chief Product Officer, employee number 8, thinking about how to build this out and realizing that I don't have enough engineers to kind of build out the amazing experience I'm looking to build immediately, but was just thinking, well, a short-term solution could be Slack. It's a known product to many people. It's something that is like a workspace that people are currently on today in their professional lives. It allows for the chat and conversation. It allows for channels. And we thought that was a great way to kind of like even see if there was an appetite from this community to interact digitally. What we did not anticipate was that people just loved it. They loved being able to talk to each other online. They loved having small group chat conversations. They loved the direct messaging. It was a really great way to connect the in real life experience that they were having with a digital experience that could kind of be the bridge until they saw each other again. And so it was something that really worked for a long time and then really broke down when we started to really scale. And what we realized was that Slack is a tool that is great for people who know each other to work well together. It's why so many of us use it at work all the time. You're using it in small team conversations, you're chatting in relevant channels about relevant topics, but you also know each other and you kind of have a shared goal and a shared size and community. What we really saw that was really breaking down for us at Chief, especially as we started to scale to other cities, was that it was not a great discovery tool. Our members were having a hard time finding each other and really understanding how to use it. And you could imagine as membership scaled, channels scaled, and things just became not really discoverable in general. So when we came to the Vincit team to say that we really needed help to build out a product, something that we talked a lot about in the early days was really one, as a community, we have so many things that we're looking to do right now and build out online. And though this is something that's near and dear to us, we believe that it should not be something that we build out in a proprietary way. It's not the bread and butter of our business. It is an additive tool for us that enables our members to have conversations and communicate. But it's something that we felt like existed and we knew was something that we could really be able to leverage from an existing technology. So one of the things that we started working with the Vincit team on that Otto will speak more about is really like thinking about what are the things that we're looking for in that technology? What are the bells and whistles that it had to have? And what are the things that we're going to grow with us as a business that would enable us to basically have that run in the background and have us enable a great kind of front end experience on top of it. So it needed to have a lot of flexibility to enable us to grow. It needed to have common conventions that we were seeing in other social platforms. And it needed to have, I think, the right developer tools that we also needed to get analytics and data for us to understand how the community was interacting. Because when we were using Slack, that was also something that was a little bit of a black box for us. And you could imagine, as we're trying to think about community engagement and measure it, having a black box in the area where people are talking is probably not the best thing. So that was also something that was really important for us to think about growth and analytics and know that this was something that was a technology that we could use and really start to kind of take the reins of and understand and think about how we could start using that to influence our business. So I think that's probably the best way to explain the context of what we were looking for. And I think Otto now will jump in and explain the technology that we ended up choosing and how we ended up integrating it.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Nikki. So my name is Otto, and I've been working at Vincit for the past 4 years, and now recently been working as a lead developer in the Chief project. So let's just jump right into it. So first of all, before we started to implement these community features, we spent some time doing research on different kind of platforms that would support our use cases and what we could use to build up these kind of features that Nikki mentioned about. So we had previous experience already from using PubNub as a tool, but we really wanted to validate our thinking here and wanted to compare our product to other possible solutions out there. So some tools that we looked into were Pusher, Stream, Sendbird, Twilio, for example. So Twilio, probably familiar to many listeners out there for their SMS offering, but they also have something for the chat features as well. And really the problem with many other options was that they supported a very kind of narrow set of use cases. So they only supported building chat a certain way, for example, and they wouldn't have been extendable in the future use cases. So that was something that we wanted to avoid. And PubNub was a platform that we could leverage for these real-time capabilities in the future as well. So that was kind of the reason we went with PubNub and what that research validated our opinion about over the other platforms as well. So one could also ask why not just build it ourselves, right? So we are building these chat community features. We could just use WebSockets to communicate right over that. So why we shouldn't build that stuff ourselves? Of course, that would require a lot of effort from our part. Developers would have to build up that stuff ourselves, and that would take a long time to do. Then of course, once we build up that stuff, we would have to maintain it as well. So that would take additional effort on our part to do bug fixes and things like that for a platform if we were to do it ourselves. Then scaling up the services which PubNub handles out of the box for us. So when there would be more users, we would have to scale the service up and things like that. So it's something that PubNub handles out of the box, and we don't need to really worry about that. Then reporting and analytics is something that PubNub provides out of the box as well. So we can get like user counts, real-time user counts from the service. We can get the amount of errors that is happening and things like that. We don't have to implement or integrate to another service necessarily for that either. Then authentication, access control was something that we required as well. And PubNub provides solutions for that. So we can use that instead of integrating to another third-party service. And then documentation is something that as a developer you should do for the other colleagues around. So that's something that we would have to do ourselves as well. So there's kind of a lot of different reasons why we shouldn't have the effort to build this kind of solutions ourselves when there are existing tools that we can leverage. Then some reasons why we ended up going with PubNub. So PubNub's been around for a pretty long time. So if you go and Google PubNub, for example, you'd find that there are Stack Overflow posts from like 2011. So they've been around for almost 10 years already. So that makes us more comfortable working with the platform, knowing that they've been around a while, and we can then trust them most likely to also stay around compared to some of these other platforms that have been around for a shorter period of time. Then, like I already mentioned, PubNub is also extendable, kind of lower level, more generic platform to use. So right now, the use cases we use PubNub for are the chat and community features, but in the future, if we wanted to do something else with PubNub as well, that would be possible. So thinking ahead as well there. And PubNub has a lot of features we could leverage that I'll show a bit later. And they supported most of our use cases that I already mentioned. And PubNub also has a lot of documentation. They've been around for a really long time already. And they have a pretty good live support as well on their website. So you can message them if you have any problems with the service. And you have access to different levels of email support as well based on the plan that you have. And with PubNub, it's also free to get started. So the free plan includes all the optional features they have, and you get, I think, up to 1 million transactions for using the free service, so you can get pretty far with that as well. And then if you want to put the PubNub tool that you build into production, the plan starts at $49 if I remember correctly, and that supports up to kind of 1.5K users. So that's not too expensive either, considering if you're starting out or something like that. Then what is PubNub itself? How do they do what they do, and what do they actually do? So PubNub is this real-time infrastructure as a service PubSub messaging platform that works over WebSockets, and they have servers around the world that kind of provide this low latency real-time capabilities for users no matter where you're located at. And they say that their network supports over, or sends over hundreds of millions of devices, supports hundreds of millions of devices per month, and over 1.4 trillion messages are sent per month as well. So they work on a pretty huge scale. And how does PubNub kind of work? They have this concept of channels and channel groups. So everything is kind of built on top of these things and works kind of as a foundation. So you can, as a client, you can subscribe to up to 50 channels at a time. And if that's too much, or if you need to do more, then you can subscribe to channel groups, which can house over 2.5K channels, if I remember correctly. I included some code examples here on the right side. So this is kind of the very high level overview how PubNub works. So you create a new PubNub instance, you give it a publish and subscribe key from the dashboard that you get. Then you publish a message to the PubNub channel, which here I've described as chat room gaming, for example. You can send a message, it can be an object, it can be a string, it can be any data type really that you send. And then you can add listeners to actually receive the message and then subscribe to the channels to receive those on the other end. So here in the subscribe example, I'm subscribing to chat room.star, which means that I'm subscribing to this kind of chat namespace. So I'd receive messages from all the chat room channels with a single connection, which is pretty efficient as well if you have a lot of devices that you're working with. So other things that PubNub has, some of which I've mentioned here, access management. So you can control to which clients the publisher is able to send messages to. So for example, on the picture on the right side, we could restrict it so that only the top 2 items there would be able to receive the messages, and the rest would get unauthorized if you try to publish anything. So that's been an important tool for us to use to create these kind of private chats, for example. Then message history is something that PubNub provides as well. So you can store messages on the PubNub end. You can choose to store them for, like, say 7 days at a time or indefinitely if you want to. The cost is not that high for storing it. I think it was $8 per 1 gigabyte of messages, so that's pretty cheap as well. And then something else that PubNub provides is the push notifications for mobile devices. So anytime a message is published to the PubNub network, you could attach an optional push payload to the message, and then mobile devices would be able to get that message push notification on their devices. And PubNub supports Firebase Cloud Messaging, which is the one that we are using within the Chief app, and then Apple APN as well. And user presence is something that I wanted to mention as well. So you could, for example, display chat room online statuses with the user presence. So you get the count and amount of the subscribed client. So for example, like you'd have a list of users and you wanted to show this green circle indicating that who's online currently in your chat room. Then PubNub functions is something that they have as well, and I wanted to talk separately about this as well, because this is kind of one of the differentiating factors, I think, between PubNub and other platforms. So PubNub has this concept of functions, serverless, written in JavaScript, no infrastructure required really. So you can write these serverless functions in the PubNub admin panel, or you can write them on your own computer locally as well and push them up to PubNub with the CLI tool that they provide. So what can these PubNub functions then be used for is to react to the published messages. So basically intercepting the message when it goes through the PubNub network. So you could react to the message before it's published, which means that you can edit the message before it reaches the subscriber. So for example, you could translate the message to a different language, for example. So if you send a message in English, you could translate that to Spanish by using some external service and then send that message forward to the subscribing clients. Or you could also create like a profanity filter as well if you wanted to restrict certain words from being said. The other way you can use these functions is to do operations after publishing, so that by that time the message has already reached the PubNub network, so you know that it's already delivered to the subscribers. So for example, we are using this functionality to send the messages to our own database at the after publish phase of the message. And the functions, PubNub has this blocks catalog on their website that kind of showcases different functionalities that if you want to check that out, there's a lot of different examples, like the translation example that I mentioned about. That's one thing that they provide on their website. So if you're interested in these things, go check that out after the talks. Then here listed a couple of like different use cases from the PubNub website. So we've been mostly using PubNub for the in-app chat features so far, but you could use PubNub for like location tracking, like for example, like DoorDash type of delivery tracking on a map display the real-time location of the car, Uber Lyft style location tracking. You could use PubNub to transfer messages between IoT devices, like in a factory, for example. You could send them to your backend service and then create like this live data streaming dashboard on top of that that displays your IoT device sensor data in real time, for example. So there's a lot of different ways PubNub can be leveraged for different kind of stuff like listed here. Then the SDKs that PubNub supports, so these are the most popular ones from their website. So we've been using the JavaScript and Node SDKs, which are the same, kind of the same, but listed separately here. Then Android Swift SDK is available for mobile, Objective-C, lower level languages like C, then Go, Unity as well for game development purposes if you want to do some real-time communication there. Then next I wanted to talk a bit more about our approach to solving these problems that we were facing when building up the community feature, and how we kind of went about it and display some examples from the mobile app that we built as well. So the features that we've been building so far include this message board feed, one-on-one and group chats, which are private to users, and thirdly, search. PubNub really supported the first two use cases here, but for search we had to build something of our own because PubNub, even though they can store message history, they don't really support searching the history efficiently, so we had to implement something of our own for that. So here on the left you see an example of the feed of from the mobile app. So it's kind of similar to other social media platforms as well. So you can like a post, you can bookmark a post, there's the title, body text, icon, the poster name, and things like that. Then when you tap into the post, you get to this post details page that's displayed in the middle. So once you navigate to the post details page, we subscribe to a PubNub channel, and you'll receive the messages in real time when they arrive. All right, so that's pretty cool feature that PubNub lets us build. Also on the right, I added this push notification that I received from the message I posted here. So that's powered by PubNub as well, that you can get these push notifications for the real-time communication features that we built. Then here on the left side, we have the inbox feature, kind of this one-on-one and group chats displayed here. So for example, whenever new message is received, on the left side, you will see the message arriving in real time, and you see this golden circle indicating that you have new message in addition to the timestamp there. And on the left side, you have this private chat going on, kind of FaceTime like, that you can send messages back and forth. Then thirdly, you can search the members and channels, but the most important related to PubNub is posts that I mentioned earlier. So for searching posts, we had to build something of our own. So the technologies that we've been using in this project include React Native for the mobile app, and that's been working pretty well for us. Heroku to host the backend code base, GraphQL to communicate with the backend, Circle CI to build up the mobile app and the backend. Then we are using a bunch of AWS services as well, API Gateway, Lambdas, Dynamo, Elasticsearch is something that we use for searching the posts and one-on-one chats and other things. And then of course PubNub. So in this architecture diagram, on the left side we have the mobile client and the web client, and kind of the real-time stuff happens on the left side. So the clients publish messages to PubNub channels, and then the clients in turn subscribe to those channels. So the real-time stuff really happens here on the left side, and that's all that is required for that. But the stuff on the right is something that we implemented for storing the chat messages. So a PubNub serverless function receives the messages from the clients, and that forwards the message to AWS Lambda. And that Lambda in turn inserts the message to DynamoDB that we use as a storage for the messages right now. And then in turn, another Lambda is listening to this DynamoDB stream, and the DynamoDB trigger receives those chat messages automatically as they are inserted into the database. And then that DynamoDB trigger dumps the messages to Elasticsearch basically, and then the mobile and web clients are able to search the messages via GraphQL through our Heroku backend that we have, that then connects to Elasticsearch in turn. So lastly, I wanted to share this demo app that I built for the talk, kind of to showcase how easy it is to get started with PubNub and how easy it is to build these real-time chat solutions with it. So I implemented this short demo, kind of Windows 95-esque chat online. If you want to check that out, it's at vincit-talks-chat.netlify.app hosted there if you want to try it out. And the source code is available on my GitHub account if you want to check how easy it is to build this kind of simple public chat application. So this is pretty much all I had for the talk, and if there's any questions, I'll be here to answer.
Thank you, Otto. Yeah, there was two questions that came in, and I know that there's a chance that you may have answered them in some form or another, but just to make sure that we're covering off on the two questions that came in. The first one was earlier in the talk saying, what about Firebase instant messaging, if you have any thoughts there? And then after that would be a question around, can you send media through PubNub? And if so, does it get stored in the message history?
I don't have experience of using the Firebase instant messaging, so don't really have an educated opinion about that, unfortunately. But for media, I think the message payload has to be an object or like any of the primitive JavaScript types. So I'm not sure if you can send media in. I don't think it's possible to store that kind of data in the message history, at least. So you can use it to transmit like chat messages, for example, objects of data, like a sensor data, for example, but I'm not 100% sure about media. I don't think it's possible to do that with PubNub.
Gotcha. And if you want to go ahead and stop sharing your screen, we'll get a look at your face and we can have a few more questions for you. I have one from Michelle. How long did it take to build this app and what was your team like?
So we started working on the project in February, so it's been a couple of months now. There's been 5 people working in the project. So myself, one one developer fully focused on the mobile app, then 2 developers working on the website, and 1 developer working on the backend in addition. So 5 developers all together. And we've been working since February, so a couple of months. It's been mostly working on the mobile app, but we are also starting to implement these chat features on the website as well. So we've been mostly focused on the mobile app so far this spring.
Great. And one last question we have here is, do you use Code Push in the Chief mobile app?
Actually, I'm just started to implement that last week, so it will be in the app shortly, and it's a pretty cool tool that I think, like now that I'm adding it to the app, I think most React Native apps should use. Like, I don't think there's many reasons not to use it, to kind of bypass the App Store process and get these instant updates to devices. And just setting up, it's not too hard to do either. So maybe 1 or 2 days of work. So I recommend looking into it for your React Native apps if you haven't already. So that's definitely a good tool to have.
Great. And if there's not any more questions, we can move on. I'll give it just a couple more seconds for any further questions. In the meantime, Otto and Nikki, we really want to make sure and thank you for all the speaking today and all the great work that's been done up to this point. We know what an incredible company Chief is and the amazing story behind their company, and we can all absolutely get behind and root for their success, and the technology decisions have been a great collaborative effort between the partnership between Vincit and Chief.